Welcome to Main Street Minds with your host, Amish Munshi. This is where industry leaders and seasoned pros share their secrets to success beyond limits. Let's dive in.
Hello and welcome to Main Street Minds. Today we have a very special guest, Katie, all the way from Virginia. And I'm very excited to share what's happening in the market and have Katie on our show today. It's a great market to be in, and I'm here to looking forward to learning more about it. Obviously, the local person with Katie is going to give us more insight than what we know. So, without any further delay, let's get started. Katie, introduce yourself.
All right. Well, thank you for having me. I'm Katie. I am a wife. My husband is Nick, and I have three kids. Um, I'm a realtor in Harrisonburg, Virginia area, and I just love serving people. I do it in real estate. I do it outside of the real estate. Just people's person. I've been always enjoying communicating with people and just interacting with people. Um, you know, helping out and just that's something that motivated me into real estate.
Sweet, sweet. So that's amazing. So tell us how you got started. Like what got you interested in becoming a realtor?
Well, it started off just before COVID. Me and my husband, we were thinking of relocating, and we were just exploring different options, and Virginia was one of
Mhm.
the states that was on the radar. And I was going to get my real estate license to sell our home in New Jersey,
Sweet.
but COVID started, everything was a mess and unsure, unpredictable. That time before I even got my real estate license, we sold our house sooner than
Yeah.
expected. And yeah, I never got my license in New Jersey. But then when we moved to Virginia, it took some time for me to kind of adjust and make sure the kids are adjusted with schools and all the transition that we had to make. And then my husband was pretty much the biggest motivator who said, "Why don't you try real estate here?"
Mhm.
Because it's something that we all think flexible job gives me a lot of time with family and kids, but it's actually we work 24/7, so it's
I know.
not as flexible as people think. Yeah, and that's how I got into real estate here in Virginia. Um, just learning the market, learning the area, adjusting. It was everything all at the same time.
Yeah, yeah. And yeah, I studied in New Jersey as well, so I'm very familiar with
Oh,
the market. And so but obviously Virginia is a little more sunny, a little more warmer, and I think cost of living is much better, right, in over there.
well, actually, we lived in South Jersey, and that
Oh,
was we were pretty close to ocean, so I think the weather was warmer when we lived in New Jersey than here because we are here now in the
a little more
mountains, in the
inland.
valley. So yeah, it's actually colder here, but it's not the problem. It's not a problem.
Yeah, yeah, it's a good choice. So
Yeah.
tell us more about the market. Like what do you how what drives people to your market?
Well, I I started in 2022. That was the booming market. It was still booming from COVID.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, so I got into a hot market and I was mainly working with the buyers, um, just exploring the area. I was actually expecting accepting any source of leads because I was learning. I was trying to navigate location where I would be serving. So the market was really hot in
Mhm.
2022. I know it was even hotter in 2021. I wasn't in the
Yeah.
real estate just yet, but in 2022, when I started, it was still hot, and I actually adjusted working with buyers and preparing and writing a really strong offers. I was taught by my mentor, creating different ways to be competitive.
Mhm.
And praise God, we were able to win a lot of deals and close a lot of deals.
Mhm.
Um, so I knew I was always told, Katie, you started off in the hot market. It's not gonna last that way. It's gonna normalize. So I
Yeah.
learned it very quickly that, it's a big real estate, it's a huge roller coaster where you're pretty much just, waking up and you're just taking a ride. And yeah, the market started changing in 2022 at the, closer to the end of 2022. And now more of a seasoned agent. They call it normal market, stabilized market. For us who started in the real estate, doing real estate COVID time, just after COVID, we think it's a slower market, but it's not. It's
Yeah.
really just normal market, where
Yeah.
we see, fair amount of sellers and fair amount of buyers.
Mhm.
Um, you know, I would say it really, if you look at the generation, that's when you
Mhm.
see the difference. Obviously, for millennials, it's a little bit stressful because they've seen very low interest rates. Anyone who is older, they're like, this is perfect, 6%, 7%. It's a normal interest rate, you know.
Yeah.
So the market is still strong. We still have fair amount of buyers, fair amount of sellers. We just get to negotiate now a little bit more because before, buyers they were ready to jump on anything and purchase anything as long as they are the winners of the offer. Now we
Yeah.
see more negotiation, and I think it's very fair to the buyer and to the seller, and we still get to do a lot of deals, and we still get to come into agreement.
Yeah, yeah, that's actually good, right? And even I have my realtor's license, and like I don't practice as much. I do a lot more of the lending,
Hmm.
mostly of private money lending. But like everyone keeps telling me the same thing, saying, "Hey, this is the normal market." And then
Yeah.
I started in 2019 as well, so I've only seen like the highs, and I'm like, okay, this is if this is normal, I have no idea what a
Hmm.
what a
Yeah,
buyer's
yeah,
market looks like. So.
yeah.
Yeah. So, but then I think it does make sense, right? Like a 6% interest rate. I think a five will again bring in a lot more buyers back. I think it will again become a
Hmm.
seller's market if we are
Hmm.
closer to five. So,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, but I mean, like I said, I feel the buyers are less pressured right now, since, as I
yeah,
mentioned, when I started, I did first year, I think all I had, yeah, I had all my buyers. I haven't had any sellers. And then my second year, I got some referrals and it was seller. Uh, so I I feel like buyers are less pressured now and they actually have time to think, and that's not a bad idea.
yeah,
When you get to choose between few
yeah,
properties and you can actually do a home inspection now and you can negotiate. Um, I mean, the sellers, it doesn't hurt sellers that are taking the step to sell their house wisely. And I always recommend my sellers, let's go over everything. Let's
mhm,
do a pre-home inspection. It's just going to save us some time and it's going to help us to sell for a better
yeah,
price. And
yeah,
yeah, I mean, thank God my sellers, we've had mostly great experience selling it because they're not trying to take advantage of really rush time buyer
yeah,
the sellers market. They're doing it wisely and they're still
yeah.
getting good top dollar.
Yeah, yeah, that's perfect. So, you did mention you are able to work with both buyers and sellers. Like, are you like accepting both buyers and sellers still?
Yes, I'm accepting anyone who comes my way. Yes.
Cool, cool.
Buyers and sellers, investors, pretty
Mhm.
much I work, yeah, wide circle of people.
So tell us more about like what was your first transaction like? Like how did you get hold of the first transaction? What was it like to get started in this industry?
Okay, my first transaction actually was very interesting because it was completely remote.
Oh wow.
I've met my client first time for the walkthrough.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he was an investor from Northern Virginia,
Mm-hmm.
and he reached out to me. He sent it a property, and he said, like I said, it was a hot market. So he said, I really wanna put an offer on this property. I'm an investor.
Mm-hmm.
and I need to get this deal closed as soon as possible. So I offered him, since I knew we had not a whole lot of time, I offered him a virtual tour, and he agreed to it.
Cool.
Um, by the time I was scheduling a virtual tour, we learned that there were already few offers in hand. And he said, you know what? Let's just write an offer without a showing. Let's just
Yeah.
do it tonight. So it was
Yeah.
a very nerve-wracking for me because during this first deal, really just remotely, I haven't met the client. We haven't even had a showing. I really had to take, steps. I was consulting with my mentor, and we signed a sight unseen
Mm-hmm.
form. Uh, he was okay with that. So, and we submitted an offer, and we won. We were the winners. And then he said, you know what? Since we were able to win this offer, there is another
Cool.
place for sale right across.
Yeah.
Let's submit an offer again. So
Yeah.
we did the same thing next day, and we were
Yeah.
able to win that as well because it
Great.
was same seller for. So I had two condos under contract within 24 hours with the same
Yeah.
buyer virtual. So, and
Yeah.
we met first time for the walkthrough.
Yeah, and it's actually pretty good you brought that up because very few many realtors like focus on like retail and are just like they don't quite like to work with investors, but I think you like to work with investors as well.
Yeah, I like I said, I'm thankful for everyone who got sent my way, and I don't have a problem with anyone.
Yeah, yeah, because investors, I think it's a lot of repeat business, right? Like once you've worked with
Yeah,
an investor, there it's a
yeah.
little difficult to tap into that market, but once we are in the investment market, it's always a
Yeah.
lot more repeat
And
business.
it's in some way it's even easier with investors because they're not attached to the property
Yeah,
emotionally. It's all about numbers. And
yeah,
as long as the numbers make sense, we go and we submit an offer. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, makes sense. So tell us more about right now. You did mention it's kind of a balanced market, right? So how are you preparing your sellers to like list? Like what are you got? What's your recommendations right now?
Uh, my recommendations are always just put yourself in the position of buyer.
Mm-hmm.
And just to be a transparent, if I always ask them if they are aware of any issues with the property, and if they are, I really recommend them to make sure everything is fixed. Pretty much, anything that they're aware of. And
Mm-hmm.
after that, when they feel comfortable, when I feel comfortable, we go ahead and we list the property. I've had few situations when it was an older home, and I did suggested them to do a listing home
Mm-hmm.
inspection. It was a really peace of mind for me and
Yeah.
for the sellers because we knew what were the issues. Um, and they were able to fix them prior. And even after we had an inspection,
Yeah.
we knew what could come up and we could disclose that. So
Yeah.
um, that's just something I've implemented with especially older homes. And overall, I just say I think the hardest point right now is the price. To agree on the price that will sell fast and we won't
Mm-hmm.
be sitting on the market for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, that's the most important. I mean, I always try to listen my sellers and take into consideration everything that they're sharing, and not undervalue the property, but at the
Yeah.
same time make sure we price it correctly.
Cool, cool. And then like on the flip side, like what are you recommending the buyers? Like how should they be approaching today's market?
Um, well, I haven't really had much of recommendation for buyers because they still feel, the market that shifted.
Mm-hmm.
They're just asking me if, the, pretty much I haven't had home inspection in more than a year in my career.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was like a big thing where nobody would do a home inspection. Nobody would do any type of, they would try to avoid contingencies as much as they can.
Yeah.
Nowadays, when buyers are trying to take advantage of the market, of the shifted market, I
Hmm.
always still suggest them to be a reasonable with their contingencies. And we pretty much, we look at the property, and I always work with buyers with perspective of a resale. For
Hmm.
me, it's very important. Once they get this property, can they resell it down the road?
Hmm.
Will they have any issues with resale? If
Hmm.
not, I strongly believe the property will still gain the equity with time.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely. Overall, in the long run, it always real estate is always a good
yeah,
investment if we can hold
yeah.
it.
I just really concentrate with buyers, not on the minor things. I
Hmm.
really tell them just look at the bigger picture for resale. That's pretty
Right.
much my recommendation for buyers.
Yeah, yeah, makes sense. And then for the investors, like how is the market? Like, is it does the rent end up paying majority of the mortgage right now?
Well, for investors, I think it's a little bit harder, and they're adjusting with that because uh, because the prices are still high. And
Hmm.
for them to make money, we really got to look for a good deal. And like I said, at some point, it's not as hard with investors because as long as the math adds up.
Hmm.
But for the flip investment, it's
Yeah,
harder because we don't
yeah.
have a whole lot of off-market properties around, and the ones that on the market they're for top dollar. It's hard to flip them and
Yeah.
make money right away. But for a long term, I have a lot of investors who's still shopping, and they're just investing into a long-term investment. They
Hmm.
have either Airbnb or long-term students or just families. So still there we have enough investors because our location is great because we
Yeah.
have people coming in from Northern Virginia, we have people coming in from Roanoke, Charlottesville. Our prices are somewhat, I would say, cheaper,
Yeah.
more affordable, but then there's a good amount of people coming in into the area and looking for rental, and I have good amount of investors who is
Yeah.
from surroundings.
Makes sense. Makes sense. So
Mhm.
yeah, that's always good if the rental market is pretty strong. And do you have like a property management? Like, do you manage properties or do you have a recommendation that you work with?
I don't personally manage properties at this point. Maybe down the road I'll look into it because I've had that question asked. But our office does. So every time if I have a client, I'll connect them with our office
Okay.
management, property management team, and they can take care of them.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. That's always good to have it within the same office.
yeah, yeah.
Sweet. So I think that's kind of the current market, right? But like going forward, like what do you anticipate? Like with the rates are definitely reducing. So what do you anticipate in the next 3 to 5 years? Like where do you see the market?
Well, I'm staying positive. I believe it's gonna be. I'm a believer, so I believe anything that comes our way is for our best and for our good. So I think we're still gonna have sellers, we're still gonna have buyers because people, they always need roof above their head.
Yeah,
So yeah, yeah.
makes sense. So overall, it's kind of you think the prices are going to continue increasing.
I think I mean really just because like I mentioned, our location is beautiful. We
Hmm.
have Four Seasons Resort not far
Yeah.
from us. We have bigger cities around. We have universities,
Hmm.
um, lots of outdoor activities, beautiful nature. So we still see a lot of people coming into this area. I
Hmm.
can't really speak on other locations. I know,
Sure.
I have friends, agents in other states.
Yeah.
I know some states are somewhat, they're not really struggling, but they do have some concerns.
Yeah.
We don't see it here as much as we hear in other states. So I
Yeah.
do want to stay very positive and,
Sure.
trust in the Lord that everything's going to
Yeah.
be good.
Yeah. And is it a seasonal market or it's like it's consistent through the year? Like, do you see more interest in winter being or has the market been the same through the whole year?
For me, I would say the only really time when I see the slowdown is around holidays. And I think it has to do with not as much even with the weather, because last yeah, I think it was last winter we had a lot of snow, so that's
Yeah.
probably somewhat slowed down due to the weather. But overall, just holidays. Other than that, I personally had clients throughout the whole year.
Mhm.
Definitely, we see more listings in spring for sure,
Okay.
more listings. But overall, there are always buyers out there, and there are always people who need to sell.
Yeah, yeah, makes sense. So yeah, that so as we come close to end of this episode, I always like to ask like, are there any other topics or recommendations you want to share with the audience?
Um, I think for me, what I remind myself all the time is um, where God guides you, He provides you. I try to stay very positive and don't stress within time or season when I feel like I'm slowing down or
Mhm.
something is not going the way I want it to go. But we as agents, this market, this business overall is very stressful. Lots of roller coasters, ups and downs, and sometimes we need, a few weeks of a slowdown to kind of recharge
Mhm.
and just always look for the best. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, makes sense. So yes, cool. So as we come to end of this episode, I wanted to like thank you for coming on the show, sharing more insights about the market and about yourself,
sure.
and wanted to just thank you for being a great guest.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for inviting. It was a pleasure and all the best to you.
That's a wrap on today's episode of Main Street Minds. Want to share your journey with our audience? Head over to mainstreetmindspodcast.com/guest to apply.